let's start with the formal presentation so that I know that we're all clear about that. And then I'll have to explain, and then I'll have to explain a little bit more with the CQ because we are doing a few things differently, than they've been done in the past. I didn't change the point structure very much for those of you who might remember what it looked like last year. But there were a few things that I did notice with the previous rubric. One thing was that there were different things across the categories as opposed to one norm that's being referenced all the way across the categories. So I really had to, the main thing that I had to rework was to make sure that we were actually grading the same thing across each category, if that makes sense. It wasn't the case last year, unfortunately. I have, you'll notice under solutions, I've actually upped the points there, I believe. I think I just switched where, because I believe, if I remember correctly, each of the categories is still worth the same amount. The total for each of the full categories is still the same, the content, creativity, and presentation. So the first area is content, obviously. The first area has to do with relevance and the complexity of the topic. And more than anything else, what we're looking for is that the kids are getting a sense of the complexities. They understand how their topic, whatever that might be, waterborne diseases in Cambodia, relates to the other topics out there, the other global issues, or they get that larger global scope. They're offering something new, a new knowledge, new perspective, new insights, and are really aware, really get the complexities of the topic. In terms of the argument, are they defending their ideas well? Are they, making sophisticated arguments without generalizing too much about the state of the world? Again, these are very, very similar, especially in the last category. They're very similar to what they were last year. I just tried to make the language a little bit clearer. Are they using facts and examples skillfully to substantiate their conclusions? And then the third area, the solutions, are they proposing something that's an innovative solution with a compelling call to action? Have they thought about sustainability and measurability, things like that, that will really allow a project to continue? And have they developed some sort of a solid action plan if they can? And I'll say that last year, even without that being emphasized, one of the two presentations I saw did that. They had really done some research into how to improve nutrition through vitamins. They'd found some organization in Canada that was doing I can't remember the name of it, I apologize, a small, like, vitamins for a day kind of a campaign, very, very cheap, very easy, easy to get to children, etc. And so it was a very specific plan, and they had a definitive plan for how they were going to raise a certain amount to get these vitamins and where they were going to send them, and those kinds of things. So creativity and originality, and this has to do with the delivery of the presentation, right? Are they doing some interesting things? Are they captivating your attention? Are they creative and original? And I'll be clear, creative and original does not mean that they have to use technology. It just means that it has to be interesting and engaging. I saw students do a really fascinating shadow play last year, actually. That was the most unusual one I saw. It was an all-girls high school, I believe, group, or I don't think it was an all-girls high school, but it was a group of girls from a co-ed high school who did these things on the experience of Arab women, and they stood behind a curtain and they blew out candles. It was all very symbolic. It was really beautiful and really moving, and they wove in the statistics too, you know what I mean? So it wasn't just fluff and pretty. It really had, it was wild. It was really interesting. And to some degree, are they using technology or other novel approaches to communicate the ideas? Because it doesn't have to be technology. I will mention, of course, you hope that they've tested all of their equipment ahead of time. Please don't dock them if the LCD projector explodes, something like that. They all know that they should come with a plan B, C, and D, just in case things don't work the way that they're supposed to. But do be understanding if you can tell that the mistakes are about the technology or about their, just being comfortable with it. And then the last area is presentation itself, so how they're presenting. Some of this is rehearsal and memorization. Does the presentation move pretty seamlessly? Is it clear that they've done extensive rehearsals? They shouldn't need to read from their notes except maybe if they're reading a document for a reason in the presentation. But I also added notes this year that made a point of saying, please note that a second or third language speaker should not be docked as severely for needing to look at notes, because it's much more terrifying to go up and do something memorized when you're working in your non-native language, and you'll be able to tell pretty quickly if that's the case for students. I would just encourage you to be aware of that in that area, and then also in terms of language accuracy. Participants' roles, is the group dynamic strong? Have the roles been distributed well? And as I said before, you're welcome. I would encourage you to ask if you can't tell how much everybody has participated. and then the good, strong teamwork and dynamic, and then the delivery in terms of volume and so forth. We're talking about their being able to be heard. Are they speaking clearly? In other words, can you understand them, and is the language well used? Okay. Are there questions on this? Yeah, Sarah?
It says, did the team observe the time limit? If yes, add 9 points. What time limit are you giving them?
The time limit, I believe, is 10 to 15 minutes. Are they within the 10 to 15?
That's
Is that correct, Mauro, from last? I think that's correct. And you don't have to worry about taking the time. You just, in fact, you don't have to fill that purple part out. The proctor will fill that part out for you.
Beautiful.
So they'll know whether the time was good or not. Yeah, for you guys, it's really just, did it feel like it was a good length and you were entertained and engaged the whole time? For the proctor, it's how many minutes exactly was it, so. Okay.
Have they seen this? Do they know what
Yes, yeah, it's in the teacher packet actually, and I really, speaking as a teacher myself, rubrics are much more for teaching than they are for grading. So this, I'm very much stressing to teachers that I want them to be using this from the beginning of the process, because, not because they're teaching to the rubric or to the test, if you will, but because this defines the expectations. And so through this, I have a tool to teach them to reach those expectations. So yeah, my hope anyway is that every teacher is using them extensively. Are there any other questions about the formal presentation?